Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Book Live. I'm going to tell you what, today is going to be so freaking electrifying with energy, and we're going to be pumped up. Dude, I got a guy here beside me. Before I even introduce him, man, I got to go through some of his stuff here. First, I got to tell you, this book here, man, will bring you power. That's all I have to say. But let's just start into it. This guy is a human resource executive, leadership, coach, speaker, consultant. He's the author of Unstoppable Power, which we're going to talk about today, and several other books. 25 years in leadership, HR. I mean, it goes on and on. Guy's a beach lover, loves the Pirates, not the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's not from Pittsburgh, but he loves the Pirates, mate. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's from Tampa, Florida. The electrifying Jay Kuhns. What's up, buddy?
Hey, my man. Thanks so much for having me on. It's good to see you, brother.
Good. You too, man. Was that a good enough intro for you, bro?
That was way too kind. That was way too kind. I'm humbled already.
Keep it real. So, Jay, before we even start, man, let's the 2-minute draw. I always say this, man. Tell everybody out there who Jay Kuhns is.
All right. So, a longtime hospital HR executive. Absolutely love hospitals, love healthcare. Spent blood, sweat, and tears in the space. And had an opportunity after about 20 years in the hospital to move into consulting roles. So I spent 5 years leading a healthcare practice for an RPO called Kinetics, great company, grew that healthcare service line to about 70% of the firm's revenue. We were just on fire. They're still doing great today. And after about 5 years, I was recruited away to join the company I work for now, IRI Consultants. We're the largest labor relations management side consulting shop in the US. Really, really large compared to the other folks in our space. Was a client there twice when I was with HCA and with Johns Hopkins, and decided to check the bucket list in a massive way, working on the book Unstoppable Power, and it's like having another kid. But it was awesome. So that's the short version.
Okay, so right off the bat, you had a couple other books. What made you actually write this book? I mean, you just get up one day and say, I gotta put this one out there for everybody.
Yeah, so it's actually not so much that there's other books, but there's a long history of blogging. I've been writing a leadership blog for about 13 years. 1,000 blog posts, just
wow,
putting so much time and energy into it. And I always thought, well, maybe there's a book in there. Maybe there's a book in there. A lot of people say that, right? But I thought, okay, it's time to do it. And I was having coffee with a friend a couple years ago, and he said, just stop. Do it. Just stop talking about it. We're doing it right now. And he gave me the shove. It wasn't a push. It was a shove. And yeah, and it was an 8-month blitz to crank it out and got it done. But I felt like, as I reflected back, what are the things that I keep seeing get in leaders' way? Whether they're 28 or 38 or 58, what gets in the way? And so much of it is there's not enough passion, overused term, but for me, it's all about energy. People are attracted to energy. So
Thank you.
Are just fired up, people will follow. Right. And so I thought, okay, I just kind of naturally have this. I had a chief nursing officer say to me one time, Jay, you have terminal happiness, because I was always so fired up all the time. It didn't matter what was going on.
Yeah.
Bad news. Well, we can fix it. This is just a challenge. Let's go. So that whole energy thing, I kept saying, what I hear all this feedback about energy. It's like, this is a core thing. People feed off of that, right? They want to be around leaders who are fired up. We've all worked with really smart people who have a flat affect. There's no passion. They're a genius, but there's nothing there.
But you know what,
so that was a biggie. Yeah, go ahead.
Just sorry to cut in, because I get so pumped up about this stuff. What do you believe about the positive magnetic force? Seriously, when you got energy, I mean, don't you think they just draw to you? Like you said, that it's being all positive and smiles. People want that.
Not only do they want it, they end up seeking you out. So there's the infamous meeting after a meeting. So you'd have some big, heavy leadership meeting or some big, heavy staff meeting. And then people, other leaders, other executives would come to me after the meeting for the meeting after the main meeting, because they needed counsel, they needed advice, they wanted interpretation of what they just experienced. And I found myself, suddenly, I'm like this de facto coach for many members of the executive team and other middle managers, because they trusted me. And because I was bold enough and I was fired up all the time. I use the term fired up constantly, and because it's true. And when other leaders are, well, it's really important that we move forward with this strategy. Like, who the heck wants to follow that? No
Yeah, I
one.
mean, that's not the what is that? Vince Lombardi did that back in the day. He was not that right. He was just that stern and let's get it done. People don't buy that in anymore.
Not anymore. They don't. Not
No.
anymore. They don't. So I agree with you 100%. This concept of the folks who are energized, not in a in some sort of inauthentic way, or it's a show and people can see through it. I don't mean that. I mean like genuinely there. And I talk about energy being something that is always there. Like you don't get a day off. Yes, leaders are allowed to have feelings, and of course there are days where you're not going to be 100%. But your mood should not matter. If like your team, your colleagues, your employees, your teammates, they're relying on you to bring it.
Exactly. All the time.
So you have to bring it all the time, which also speaks to how do you do some self-care? How do you support yourself? Because you can't just pour out all the time, right? Your cup has to be filled by
Jim.
Yeah. Well, every day, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. I'm there.
You know what's real quick, Jake, about that? I always sum it up. I love Kenny Chesney, of course. Everybody knows that about me, because the beach life. That I always say every time I'm around people, I bring that Kenny Chesney vibe all the time. I'm like, it's showtime. It's that extra notch that you're not by yourself. Isn't that crazy when you have energy? You can just it's like you feel like you're like, that's your audience and you want to make them happy.
Yes, absolutely. You want to make them happy. And there is a little bit of an entertainment value, I think, to being an effective leader because you have to show some personality.
Yeah.
How do you show your personality without energy? Almost impossible. Almost impossible. So that infectious nature of energy for me has something that early on, I was doing it as a young leader. I moved into my first management job at a hospital I was working at when I was 27. I didn't know anything. I knew nothing, but I was 27. But I was just like, okay, I just am fired up, so I'm just going to be fired up. And people are like, you're nuts, man. But I didn't know how else to do anything different. Over time, that focus on energy became something that I was savvy enough to say, okay, this is actually a core competency for me. I'm blessed with this level of energy. And of course, the more you exercise, the more energy you have. It's not the other way around. So it became something that I fed and leveraged as much as I could and still do today.
And do you believe the energy? I'm going to tell you straight up, and I've studied all this stuff, like the Tony Robbins, all that stuff. You have to really love yourself to bring energy out. I really believe that. You have to love yourself as a person, not cocky, but confidence, so you can make other people confidence.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And we all deal with bouts of imposter syndrome. We are all human. We all have days where we're like, geez, am I good enough? But then you do a little reset, do a little journaling, and you're like, yeah, man, I've worked really hard to get here. And I actually do know what I'm talking about. And I can be effective. And then that self-confidence just kicks into overdrive. And here we go. And it matters. And the people around you feel it. They see it.
They do 100%. So one story I want to talk about in your book here is the one when you had that job and then you had the counter offer and then your manager was like, go for it. Can you just explain that a little bit in detail? Because I really was intrigued about that, because that way you're in a crossroads. I mean, you're getting possibly a new position, and then your counter offer and you're like, oh boy, what do you do?
Yeah, it was it was when I was leaving a human service agency in the healthcare space, very intensive healthcare setting. And I was moving to a hospital, and, I was a young guy and I had a new opportunity, and I thought away I would go. And I got this counter offer from the executive director of the organization I worked at, and I was completely rattled. I didn't know how you navigate this stuff when you're in your 20s. Like what is that, right? I understand now in my 50s how counter offers work, and if you're a valuable employee, people don't want you to leave, etc. But I had no clue back then. So it was a bizarre time. But I learned a lot from it. So it was this kind of back and forth thing. And I started to feel awkward going to my current boss saying, there's this other offer again. And that's when she said, you need to go. It was such a powerful message. It wasn't because she was mad. It was because she was role modeling for me the behavior that when you have a rising, well, I don't want to call myself a rising star, but somebody kind of up and coming, and they have that opportunity that they're supposed to have, you don't take it personally. You take pride in the fact that a member of your team is doing so well that another organization recognizes that and
Yeah.
feels like they can add value. And it was a really powerful moment for me to see, because I had a really close relationship with her. So it wasn't, oh, this is going to be bad. It was, wow, she's got my back, even though I'm leaving.
Is that great?
She's got my back. And it was powerful. And then when I've had people who've left, I role model that behavior. And I celebrate, you're amazing. No wonder that you're getting this new job. This is great. And I say the same thing. If you ever need a reference in the future, if you ever need anything, you ever need to vent, call me, because it's all good.
And you know what's about that, Jay, is like all these leaders, so many, over half, don't want you to leave. It's because sometimes there may be jealousy or something like that. And you're just like me, dude. I have one jealous bone in my body. When you meet me, dude, I just love life and love everything. And I think that some of these leaders will hold back somebody. And that's why now when you do a reference check, it's just, you can say the dates and that's it. You can't really say if, much
Right.
bad about him, or you can get like a big lawsuit. So
Yep.
Early in your year, you've seen that lady, I'm sure you're still friends with her, how she was like such a great leader. You know what I mean?
Great leader, wonderful role model. Yeah, 100% right. And it's something, that happened 30 years ago. And we're talking about it 30 years later. Like, that's pretty cool leadership role modeling moment, right? That's pretty awesome.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to say it. Have you run into leaders where they didn't want you to leave because for their self-worth?
Yeah. I've not only had that happen when I've had opportunities to move my career forward, but I've also had more times than I care to mention, times where, because working in hospitals, you have a lot of employees, you have thousands of employees, and there's a lot of internal movement because there's so many jobs and so many opportunities to grow. So I would have leaders that would not release someone who is transferring to a new job. I have to keep them another 2 months. And I would finally get involved and I say, no, they're leaving on Tuesday. Jay, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I'm the vice president of human resources. I just did. We're done. We're not going to hold somebody back, because then they're going to quit and it reflects poorly on you and me being the organization, right? So I had to intervene many, many, many times because the leaders got caught up that, oh my gosh, the sky will fall. No, it won't. You're fine. You'll be fine. You'll figure it out. And by the way, we're paying you to figure it out. So figure it out.
I love that. And you know what? Real quick here, we can jump into this. Like, leaders, sometimes they try to manage. This leadership and management is totally different. Give me your take on this, because I feel like when you're a manager, you're just boxing people in. You got to lead and give them some room so they can grow too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a line that I see all the time that says, when I talk to a manager, I feel like they're really important. And when I speak with a leader, I feel like I'm important. And I think that just clarifies it so cleanly. Managing to me is execution of tasks efficiently and on budget, on schedule. Leadership is, how are you developing your people? How are you saying, we got to get to point E? We're at point A. We know we have to get to point E. My job is to paint the vision to get us to point E. I say to my group, you all are the experts. You build the path for us to get to point E. That's not my job. You're the experts. I say all the time, if I'm the smartest person in the room, to my team of directors, not my team, but the team that reported to me.
Yeah.
If I'm the smartest person in the room, we're dead. I don't have to come up with any good ideas. I only have to implement them. And you are all the smart people. So you come up with the good ideas. I have the authority in my role to make sure we execute on them and we implement them. But that whole vibe around management to me is like an ego play. Leadership is really about, how do we move the organization forward? Think big. I have a phrase that I love. You can never think big enough. So people would say, we can only do this, Jay. You sound like a manager. You don't sound like a leader. We can go bigger. We can do more. We can, whatever it is, there's always more. Always.
100%, man. And you know what I think about managers sometimes? You know what? When you go into like a boardroom, they never let other people speak. They give this vision, this rah-rah, and walk away. I'm a firm believer, and you probably can elaborate on this. Let your employees speak.
Absolutely let your employees speak and give credit where credit's due. We just hired a director of business development on the team that I lead at IRI, who reports to me. She's been on board 5 weeks. Well, she's come up with some great ideas. So I'm giving her recognition all over the place because they're her ideas. I don't need to say they're my ideas. I want to validate that we made a good decision hiring her, and she's contributing right out of the gate when she's still learning. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, it's not a threat to me. I think it actually makes me look better that I'm leveraging this person's expertise and
100%.
experience to make us better. That's why we hired her in the first place. So
you got it down, Pat, man. Okay, so the next element we got to talk about the book here is risk. I mean, this is one that I'm going to tell you. So, I study a lot of this, and I say there's the W-2 worker, which is great. Then there's the risky one that wants to go out and do their own thing. I mean, we've all done the risk. I got to tell you for personal, I just love the high of being like, what's going to happen next? I know when he boxed in. So tell me how you took that risk, and in the book, what you talked about.
Yeah. So risk to me is massively important. And it's because, and I don't mean recklessness. Being reckless is dangerous because you can compromise the organization. You could compromise your own career in a really hurtful way. Reckless behavior, I think I put in another category. But risk taking as a leader, and I'll give you a quick example, is a powerful way to get ahead. I was a very early adopter of social media tools, particularly in the talent acquisition, recruiting space, employer branding space. And so I would get comments from our CFO, are you Twittering again? Like, first of all, Twittering is not even a word. Okay. Like, that's not a word.
Yeah.
But I would get teased and made fun of. And we started a podcast that we did twice a month, for, highlighting employees at the hospital, talking about their journey, why they work there, wild, crazy stories. Started having a brand new nurse blog about her first year experience on the job. I said, just send me an email with a story. I'll turn it into the blog post. I'll give it a title. Like, you don't have to do anything. I'll just send me an email with crazy stuff that happens. Wildly successful. So I'm doing all these things, launched an HR Facebook page. Think of how exciting that is. A hospital human resources Facebook page. Like, that's gripping, right? Not really.
And what year was this?
So this was about 2011.
So this is big time, right after like pretty much MySpace disappeared. This is like Facebook.
This is way back. Yeah, way back. So we go from, and I did all the posting for the first year. I'd schedule everything. I'd come into the office at 6 o'clock in the morning, schedule everything for the week. 3 posts a day, 7 days a week, because hospital workers work seven days a week, 24 hours a day. So I needed content that could hit no matter who is working from anywhere in the country. Anyway, I did all these things, podcasting, blogging, Twitter, all these things, and I'd get a lot of crap about it until it all worked and the jobs got filled. And our most difficult to fill jobs had a waiting list because we were blowing up our employer brand and we were adopting contemporary tools, and it was making a humongous difference. So those were examples of risk where I literally got crap from the executive team until all their jobs were filled. Not all of them, but the majority of them were filled. And it made a big difference. And so those are the types of things where I say to people, do you have a vision? Do you want to try something new? Do it. Like, especially if you're in more of a formal leadership role where you have some authority, do the things. Like, what's going to happen? You're not going to die. You're not going to get fired by taking risks. If you're being reckless, you can get fired. If you're just taking risks, that's a much better territory to be in. And I also tried to leverage, well, this gets into the next part. I can talk about that in a second. But risks for me, tremendously important. And by the way, when you think about the leaders that you've worked for, if they never made a decision and always tried to play it safe, who's inspired? No one.
No, nobody at all.
No one. We've all had to deal with leaders that don't make decisions, or the phrase I hate the most is, we'll take a look at that. When somebody says the phrase to me, we will take a look at that, that means you have no, I was going to say a bad word. You have no
say it. Go ahead, man. We're live.
Yeah. You're not going to do it, right? Like, you're not going to look at it. You don't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to cop out and you're going to hide behind analysis paralysis. Not doing that, man. Make a decision, be bold. And if you are leading with energy, and then you're making bold decisions, people are going to follow. They're going to want to see it through. They're going to say, wow, this guy sees something that we haven't seen before. I want to work for this guy. I don't want to work for the boring guy down the street. I want to work for this guy. He's going to make stuff happen.
100%. Did you ever see like the supervisor, people follow that person instead of leader? If it's a leader and it's horrible, they're like the middle person in leadership. They're like, I love this person. I'm going to embrace this person.
I used to have key leaders. If we had a difficult area of the hospital or maybe a department was really struggling, we'd move an effective leader over there. Half the staff would transfer.
Wow.
They didn't care. They want to be around the right leader. It's like, what does that tell you? Right? What does that tell you? So you got to make the decisions, man. And you got to think bigger. Ask the why questions. Well, we should do this. Why not more? Well, we can't handle that. Why not? We need more staff. Why don't we get more staff? Well, there's a staffing crisis. Oh, there's been a staffing crisis since I was 22. I've heard the same crap
every year, right?
Years. 40 years.
It's a complaint. People's complaining. People love to complain, Jay.
Cop out's an excuse. You're absolutely right, Richard. They can hide behind that instead of saying, well, fix it. I used to get interviewed by the media. They'd say, well, there's a nursing shortage. I said, I don't really care about the nursing shortage. I have one job, staff my hospital. I'm not responsible for every hospital. I need to create the best place to work, the strongest culture, the most supported employee base where they can grow and thrive and spend their career. That's my job. And they'd be like, you don't believe there's a nursing shortage? I said, I'm not in charge of nursing across America. That's not my job. My job is make my organization the best. So.
And okay, so we got to talk about CYA because I love this terminology, man. Managers, and if I had this happen to me, I'm sure it happened to you before like this. You seem like they're your best friend. And even talking about risk before. I mean, I'm kind of person like, are you like, if somebody has an idea, should they be scared or say risk and go into the manager's office or the leadership's office and say, let's do it this way? I mean, where is there a line where you like just shut up and just do your job? Or if you have an idea, it's open door?
Oh, I love the ideas. I think the only way to grow and innovate is with open door. And I have a real bias on open door. Open door to me is for the leader to get off their ass and walk out the door. It's not for people to come in and pay homage and kiss the proverbial ring and all that. Like, that's not what the open door.
Or they're on the phone. They're like, 1 minute, can you like get out of here?
Yeah. It's open door is a one way, and that's going out. But I'm 100% into that whole notion of bring me ideas. And I have been very stringent with my team members. When they're upset about something, I say, well, then give me an idea.
Yeah.
Like, let's fix it. Like, you're smart. You've been here. Let's talk about how we're going to make it better. Like, I'm not insulted if things aren't working. I just want to fix them. Like when you detach, like taking everything personally, and it's like, well, this would be risky to make a move here. Well, yeah. Or I can sit on my, and say, well, I don't want to rock the boat. And we really need to take a look at this. I'll get back to you next month at that recurring meeting every third Thursday. Like, what in the hell are we doing?
Exactly.
Like, let's fix it now. I used to send things. People would say, Jay, are you typing during the meeting? I said, well, we're talking about fixing it. I'm fixing it right now. I don't need to have a meeting with somebody. I'm sending a note. Hey, stop doing that. You're good. We're good. You're doing a great job. You don't need to do that anymore. Let's go with your idea. Like, what are we going to do? Have a meeting to schedule a meeting to talk? Let's just do stuff now. Like, why are we waiting?
Everybody waits all the time, Jay. People wait all the time. It's like, we could talk about the gym or anything like that. People say, well, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym. Tomorrow I'm going to do this. Dude, you got to do it today.
No, you do it today. Today's the day. Yeah. Day one is today. Every day is day one. Let's go right now.
And I think leaders, like when you join an organization, you should be right off the bat, say, you know what? Nothing's going to affect me. Come with everything, positive, negative. We want to work together. And I think too many leaders don't do that. They just roll in and they just say, I'm here to change, but I'm not going to take anybody else's advice. I mean, seriously, it's over and over again. The leader and the worker is disconnect.
And they also become, I have seen a bunch of times, embedded in the new culture, or they get promoted and they're in the new leadership culture. And suddenly we're going to cover our ass.
There it is.
Because
CYA.
if I stick my neck out, that's risky. Even though the reason they got promoted was that they stuck their neck out. They were an overachiever. They had great ideas. They went for it. So, wow, this is a go-getter. And we promote that person, and they look around and everybody's just, woo. Hey, Bill, let me talk to you after the meeting. And we should set something up to break this down. And can we pull some data on this, Jane? What in the world are we doing? All this energy, all this passion, all this risk, again, appropriate risk goes away.
Yep.
And we stifle all these people who could be amazing, maybe even executives one day. But what do? We play it safe. In sports, they say safe is death, right? If you play it safe, you lose. Like you're 100% going to lose.
Yeah, you can't
keep playing
hard.
Play
safe at all. Look at the Detroit Lions. I don't know if you watch football or not, but the Lions head coach, man, he's a risk taker. Am I right? It's 4th and 1. He goes through all the time. And I like him because he's grit. But you know what? He's one of the kind of people where he's a player's coach. He's got their backs no matter what. Yeah,
they love him. They'll march down the street walking on broken glass for that guy.
Oh, dude, yeah, 100%. They're gonna win a Super Bowl. I'm gonna tell you right. Yes, I'm a Steelers fan, but I'm gonna tell you, Detroit, if they win one, I'm on their bandwagon all the way, man.
I'll cheer. Yeah, I'll cheer. 100%. 100%.
That is it. And then you know what? More about the risk is there any so people out there listening and stuff like that? You know, they're upset with their job. In your book, you talked a little bit about what you did. You know, pretty much. When is the time to take that leap?
So the time is not when you're ready. 100%. It is definitely not when you're ready, because when are you ready? Never. Well, if I could just get 6 more months under my belt, if I could just have one more positive performance review, if I could just get through one more budget cycle, if I could take one more training class, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? My first couple of jobs, I wasn't qualified for any of them. But I interviewed. I was super bold in some of the interviews, maybe a little bit too big for my britches as a young guy, but it worked. My last 2 jobs weren't posted. They weren't available. The companies were going through a period of transition. And because I had built up a personal brand, a tremendous amount of energy into that, with blogging, with being active on social, across all social network, a bunch of social networks, I was sought out. I maintained relationships, which is the third leg of the stool. I maintained relationships for years and years and years. And suddenly my last 2 jobs, the last 10 years of my career, have been based on relationships. Not because some job got posted or some hotshot executive recruiting firm reached out to me. That's not how it happened. So investing in yourself, you talked about loving yourself. Well, when I started my blog, I thought, well, I'll read it and my mom will read it, but at least I'll have a blog, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now I got I'm over 1,000 blog posts. I never in a million years would have thought that I would be saying that ever. I thought, well, maybe I'll get to 50. I'll probably get tired of it. No one will care.
Yeah.
Still going strong, man. But that creates a platform where your voice is out there now. And when you're adding content that's meaningful, even if it's bite-sized like mine isn't like make a sandwich and pour a cup of coffee because you're going to be reading for half an hour. You're done in 2 minutes, man. That's the whole point. It's a little burst. It's not intended to change your life every day. It's just supposed to be a little burst. Once a week, boom, 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 boom. And then pretty soon that adds up. So I encourage everyone, when I'm speaking at conferences, which I'm blessed to be able to do that a lot, I tell people all the time, what are you doing with your brand? What are you doing? I say, how many people are on LinkedIn? Everybody raises their hand. And I say, of course, because it's the most boring platform ever. It's great for recruiting. It's great for sourcing talent. But no one goes home at the end of the day and says, my God, did you see what happened on LinkedIn today?
No, it's almost
That's not what it's for. Yeah, it's not what it's for. So how are you going to differentiate yourself in the space when everyone's kind of neutral on LinkedIn? You got to do something different. You have a story to tell. You got to differentiate. What are you doing? Hosting a podcast. You're totally and completely differentiating your brand. The way you go to the market, totally differentiate your brand.
Flip-flops and a schmedium shirt, Jay. I can't make it up. It is schmedium.
That's right.
You know what?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's your brand.
Have to do it.
Yeah.
That's your brand. That's your brand. So I encourage people to do that, because if you're going to accelerate your career. If you're 28, start writing about being 28. You don't have to sound like you're 50. You're not 50. Don't try.
Mm-hmm.
Speak like who you are. Talk about your journey. Talk about what you're reading. Talk about what you're experiencing.
Exactly.
This stuff matters, and other people will do it. I talked just very briefly. I talked about I had a new nurse came out of undergraduate school. She blogged for a year. Number one read blog post. We wrote all these other blog posts all throughout the year. Hers were number one by a mile. The audience was devouring her content, devouring. And we didn't edit it. She wasn't talking to old man Jay. She was talking to other 22-year-olds. So we made sure it sounded like a 22-year-old. It was just wildly successful. That helped contribute to my brand, though, because I could talk about trusting someone to be a brand new blogger and blog about their experience, and trusting her to say when she had scary moments, we published it.
Exactly. And I think that trust thing goes so far. Everybody talks about trust. I'm going to tell you, Jay, I go to all these conferences and people say, you have to trust the candidate, you have to trust the client. Didn't we always trust? I mean, I hate to say it, Ronald Reagan said it, trust but verify. I mean, you should have trust from day one.
That's right. That's right. I wrote recently about, does trust have to be earned every single time, or can you extend it? And I'm a big fan of extending it. Why do we have to make people wait? Well, you got to pay your dues for 9 years. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to promote the guy in 1 year. He's going to stay with me forever. And I'm going to accelerate his learning while you're stinking around like Eisenhower's still president. And we got to earn our stripes for 9 years. Like, this is insane. It's absolutely insane. And when the worker expectations of today are different, we can either say, oh, these kids don't appreciate anything. Get off my lawn. We can say that. Or we can say, okay, what do you got? You want this? Prove it. Let's go. I'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, some of that bravado and some of that sense of entitlement that we complain about with younger folks, well, that disappears the second they actually have to deliver. See what I'm saying? Like when they want it and they're reaching for it, they feel like they deserve it. And if they're bright and motivated, okay. Then what do? They're going to deliver. Or they'll fail and learn, and then in 2 years later, they'll get another shot.
But you know what? Most Gen Zs that I meet, Jay, and I put to work, dude, if you tell them what's going on and you're straightforward with them, they'll work for you.
They'll bust.
Everybody has that stereotype, and I'm going to straight up here. Gen Zs, I love you all. My effing peeps, man. Seriously, they are. But everybody says, oh, they're lazy. No, you know what? They don't want to be like bullshitted. Is that how to say it? They just keep it real because exactly they know what social media is. They're that generation where we already know what's going on. Don't try to BS us like other generations.
That's right. And they've watched their parents grind, and they're like, no, not doing that.
Where's grinding get you? In the grave.
And I'm not a big generational guy anyway, because as soon as the first two people had a kid, there were multiple generations in the workforce.
Yep.
And so that's been since forever. So this is not a new thing that suddenly we have multiple generations in the workforce. Treat them well, give them meaningful work, be respectful, don't chew them up. Like, what else? Have a social conscience a little bit once in a while? Okay,
yeah,
great. This is not rocket science.
Laugh and joke, bring back the styles. I mean, I have peeps that'll say, dude, you're wearing something from the 80s. I'm like, yeah, this is actually original 80s stuff, from the jams and stuff. They're like, dude, I'll pull them out of the closet and wear them again. But it's fun. It's like that. That's how you do it. You mix generations together, and then you all come together with a positive energy. That's what's
it's about. It's a whole diversity play.
It is. And you know what?
The more diverse, the richer the thinking.
When you don't take things to heart, Jay, and I really don't, to be honest with you, and you probably don't either, man. I think leaders really have to there's a difference between somebody really being cruel to you or somebody just, they're just speaking their piece.
Right. Big difference. And the cruel ones show it consistently where it's obvious they're just out to get you.
Yeah, they're out to get you. And you know what you do? You don't get upset about that because you're wasting time on earth.
Right.
You just go like this. See ya.
See ya. I'll talk with my feet as I walk out the door.
You said in the book before we wrap things up, chapter 10 was life is a team sport. Explain that a little bit, because I'm a firm believer on that. Like, the more people that we have around us, the better you can be.
Totally believe that. And it speaks to the kind of this third leg of the stool around relationships. And I say the phrase life's a team sport all the time, because this whole notion of I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps, I'm a self-made person, I just have to be strong. The phrase power through, I've stopped using the phrase power through, because none of that is valid. I can't do my work alone. I can't get through my personal journey alone. I have a strong faith. It's a big part of my life. I can't just it's not just I'm this magical thing on earth and I'm so special. Like that's not how it works, right? And I reflect back, people gave me a shot. So if people gave me a shot, how am I giving somebody a shot? How am I paying it forward? That phrase gets used a lot because it's a good one. It matters. Like that's a meaningful phrase. So when life is a team sport, I look at my colleagues, I look at the employees that work for me. How am I supporting them? How can I make sure they feel comfortable, even if we're having a difficult conversation? And it's not about performance. It might just be a tough thing. Like we're trying to wrestle something to the ground, right?
Yeah.
But I need them to feel involved. So from that leadership lens, I need them to feel like they matter and their contribution matters. It's not just, oh, Jay, you already know where we're going. You know what we need to do. You're just, no, like I want to incorporate your thoughts. But I'm also, that life is a team sport thing for me transcends outside the world of work. And so I put a lot of energy into an organization that I'm very privileged to be on the board of directors of here in Tampa called the Children's Cancer Center.
Man.
Not a clinical provider, wrap around 30 different programs for kids and families on that very, very intense journey. And so life as a team sport takes on a new meaning when I'm at the center and the kids and families are there and they're playing and they're in a safe environment where, yes, they look different from the kids in their elementary school or high school, but they don't look different from the kids at the center. And there can be this community and support, and it's just an amazing place. And so I have to be able to give more than just being effective at my job, right? And so that life as a team sport for me takes on all of life, not just work life. And I've stopped using the phrase work-life balance. It's just life balance.
Yeah,
How do I integrate work, life, volunteerism, charity stuff, blah, 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 blah.
It makes you feel so good too. And you know what? Everybody I get hired is on my Facebook. And people's like, I can't believe you did it. My Facebook's open to everybody. You know, Jay, you're a friend on there. Like, I have nothing to hide. You should incorporate your people you put to work because they're not like an employee. You're teamwork. You're the coach, they're the player. If you think that way, I mean, life is good. People's like, you don't have to get on Indeed. You don't have to get on Monster and these job boards and anymore. You can build your own community, and they know you're genuine too, man. When you say
that's right,
you be part of my Facebook, you're like, it's almost like you're saying, let's break bread, on the picnic table.
Right, that's right. It's the virtual version of that in many, many ways. Yeah, I think that's terrific. Yeah, I think that's great.
And the last thing I want to wrap up with is strong moral compass. I love how you said moral compass. Can you just explain it to everybody out there? Because that sums up the whole book with the power of energy at the end of being real.
Yeah. So it was an interesting process of putting that last part of the book together on moral compass, because as I just mentioned, faith's a big deal for me, but people have a faith perspective across the continuum of different faiths in the world, right? So I didn't want to be preachy for my particular faith. I wanted to use this phrase around moral compass, which could be representative of all faiths, because almost all faiths have the same set of core concepts anyway. The practices are different, but much of the, be good to people, that sort of thing. So I thought, okay, if someone uses a lot of energy, someone takes risks, and they're focused on relationships, but it's all done for manipulative reasons, that's not going to work for me. Mm-hmm. So the energy, risk, and relationship triad there needs to be based on this strong moral compass. So ethical leadership practice, ethical behavior, valuing all the relationships genuinely. I want to connect with you on Facebook. I'm being transparent. I want to connect with you, not just say, oh, you're a really great member of the team. Okay. Whatever. It has to be more than that. Right. And so that moral compass to me was a great way to bring the whole message of the book kind of to a solid conclusion.
I love it, man. And you know what? I got to tell you straight up, man, when you get somebody else promoted or you make them, I'm going to tell you, my promotions, doesn't make me as happy as when you get somebody else promoted. I don't know. It's just me, man.
Yeah.
It's like the best feeling in the world when a kid can come up to you and give you a hug, or an adult can say, hey, you got me promoted 4 years ago, and you see him at the mall. That's just like, that's what life's about. And that's
huge.
what leadership's about. I'm an Eagle Scout, and not to toot my horn, but it's like, I was taught at an early age, man, make everybody else shine, and then you'll shine in the end.
That's right.
You're the backdrop.
Absolutely true.
You're the backdrop. Let them go front. True. It is.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree.
I got to tell you, the last thing about this that I love is that you gave some shout outs to everybody. I mean, your mom, your dad, of course, but you did not forget, there's a lot of friends that you just like, my pal, my longtime friend, like these people that were in your journey, you didn't forget about, man. And I love that about you.
No, I didn't forget. No, I tried to be, I tried to practice what I was preaching in the book by, again, it is a team sport. I didn't get that book done on my own by any stretch. I did a lot of work, but all those people helped me along the way and helped me in the home stretch. So it's appropriate to recognize them.
Dude, and I love it because it's nice. It's compact. You can read it in like a couple of days or one night, and before.
Yeah, that was the goal. That was the goal.
So people, you got to get this book, put the streaming service away for a day and read. It's nice. Go by the pool and read it. Hey, Jay, any final thoughts about the book or anything else you want to give anybody out there, man?
So I would, my final thought would be, do it. Whatever you're thinking about. If you want to start a side gig, if you want to go for the job that you think is out of reach, if you want to have the tough conversation with your boss, if you want to add something to your life outside of work that you think, oh, I'm so busy, there's no way I can do it, but I really, really, really wish I could help this organization. So many leaders have so many skills that they've acquired and honed over the years that many organizations could really benefit from. Do it. You will find a way. The old adage about busy people always get the most stuff done, you'll get it done. And you will get so much more. I get so much more out of being a part of the Children's Cancer Center than I could ever do in terms of fundraising and leadership on the board and planning it. Like, I get so much more back. So I would encourage people, don't wait. Go do it right now.
Dude, that's awesome. Here we go. There he is right there, man. Speaker, he does it all, man. So if you guys get a chance, make sure Unstoppable Power, man. And sometimes maybe Jay will be at a book signing. He'll sign it for you, Hey, thank you for the signature, man. Everything like that. Yeah. I tell you what, you're a true dude, man. Before we go, I just want to give a shout out real quick here. If you guys get a chance, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, man. It's all about bringing people on like this. We're here to grow together.
Awesome.
Jay, thank you so much, brother. Again, man, you know what? You're, like I said, everything you do, man, this book is strictly just you 100%, man, from the heart. Thank you again. And definitely we'll have to bring you on again for another show, man, sometime soon.
Sounds great, buddy. Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute blast.
All right. That's the end of this chapter. We'll see you next time on another episode. Take care, guys.